Okay, so tonight we are continuing with Rebbe Nachman's wisdom on the theme of truth, and I think there's going to be the last class in the series. And until now, we're talking about like what it means to come to truth. For tonight, I want to speak about the concept of multiple truths. Okay, and that's why I call this about religious pluralism, Torah pluralism, Jewish pluralism. That is there room for religious pluralism, or is our truth, Hashem's truth, is the only truth, and everything else is garbage? So is that a correct attitude, or is there room for liberalism in Judaism? And I want to start from like I think I mentioned before that I think part of the reason why I'm not so popular on YouTube is because I'm like easygoing, and the people who are like sharp and like they're the ones that everybody likes to listen. Like if the point of this class would be that yes, all those people that you think that they're awesome people, they're all Satan. They're all they're Amalek. Then I would get more likes. But this is my truth, and I really think that this is what Hashem wants. So we'll deal with it. I want to start with we're still in the aftermath of Purim. So we touched on this in the last class. That it says in the Gemara that begimel dvarim adam nimdad. If you want to know the essence of a person, we're talking about fake people. We were talking about what it means to be a real person, and how that's to do with Purim, because begimel dvarim adam nimdad. If you want to know what's the essence of a person, so the Gemara says that there's three ways to tell what's the essence of a person: bekoso, bekiso, uvakaso, with his cup, which is a reference to when he's drunk. Bekiso, with his pocket, which is a reference to how he spends money, and bekaso is how he acts when he gets angry. Like when he's everybody gets angry, but like what do you do? Like first of all, how much does it take to get you angry? How do you act when you're angry? And so I just heard yesterday. I just heard a very beautiful thing that all three of these things are actually encapsulated in the holiday of Purim. Because bekoso is obviously there's a mitzvah to drink in Purim, and bekiso is also that there's a mitzvah of matanos levianim. There's a mitzvah to give a special part of giving of the mitzvah of Purim is giving tzedakah. It's more than the regular mitzvah of tzedakah the whole year. A person has to go out of his way on Purim to make sure that he gives to poor people. I just heard yesterday they were talking about this guy in Lakewood that Purim night. So he gave away $290,000, and he had to stop only because he ran out of liquid. What's the word? Assets. Like that was it. That was it. Like, but everybody else that he had to turn away. So he promised them that they'll give him a check in the mail, and that's like it's just like it's very beautiful to like people that know how to use money properly. People who knows how to part with their money, not to what?
But you said he ran out.
No, he still has plenty of investments. He still has like in terms of cash. Yeah, but like I'm like he doesn't need to sell his. There was a person we gave a class when we're doing the series about Jewish heroes. So I spoke about a guy named Mike Tress. That Mike Tress, he was very involved. He's perhaps like one of the pioneer of Orthodoxy in America today, because like he was involved like in making Orthodoxy before World War II, during World War II, and after. He created like Tzirei Godes. So he's the concept of youth groups in America. He created, so when he was the president of Agudas Yisrael, so they went into a lot of debt, and in order to save it, he was a very successful businessman, and he has like 3 businesses, and so I forgot who it was who asked him to leave his business and be a full-time director of Agudas Yisrael, and so he agreed. And at some point, because he went into debt, so he had to sell his partnership in one of the textile company. I think it was a textile company, and then he years later, after after he sold his, I don't know if he sold, if the reason why he sold it was for this or for something for doing the Hatzalah during the Holocaust, and he sold everything. He sold everything he had. He, like, all of his assets, all of his not liquid assets, and just to save for this cause. And then later, like 5 years later, so they saw in the paper that his company sold themselves, were bought by Revlon, and he could have made $10 million from his share in the company. He could have made $10 million, which was a fortune in those days, and I mean still a fortune, but it was like 10 times more than it is now, and so his daughter, like his daughter said to him, like Abba, think about it, like think about what could have been so different if you wouldn't have sold your shares. So, and he smiled and he said, "Wow, yeah, it would have been so different." Like he was so, like that was he was so happy that like it's a no-brainer. Like in order to save Jewish souls or to have $10 million, like it's so he's so grateful that he was able to do what he did instead of have the money. So there is such a thing. There is like it's a heroic thing to be able to part with your money in the right way, to not to be cheap, not to know how to spend money and spend money properly, is a real value. And so that's part of Purim as well, is to show who you really are. And the third thing is Picasso, that you see your essence when you get angry. So Rav Hutton said that's also part of the mitzvah of Purim, because where's the kas? We're supposed to be angry on Purim. So it's part of the theme of Purim is Mechiyat Amalek, is destroying Amalek. And so to destroy evil, you need to get angry. If you're gonna be unangry, we spoke about this once we're giving a class about the month of Tevis. So the sense that's connected to the month of Tevis is the sense of anger. Okay, the trait which is connected to the month of Tevis is the trait of anger. And we spoke about how that there is a holiness of anger. There's a holy anger that is supposed to be used for Hashem. Okay, it's supposed to be used like when evil is in front of you. So if you're going to say, "Excuse me, Mr. Terrorist, I know that you have the best intentions, but would you mind not shooting me?" Like it's not going to. You need to get angry at him. You need to kill him. You need to strangle him. You need to like there needs to be blood. You know, you need to be go for the jugular, and that's a holy. When you're going against evil, so there needs to be that, and so that's also the essence of a person. How a person acts when they're angry. Do they lose it? Do they direct their anger towards the right places? So this is all part of the mitzvah of Purim, and so one of the particular things when it comes to Purim is that there's a Gemara that says that nichnas yayin yatsa sod. Okay, when wine enters your system, so the secrets exit your system. Okay, so on a simple level, this means that a person is less of a sensor, less of a filter when they're drunk. So like everything, there was a big tzaddik that passed away not long ago. It was Chaya Wallerstein. So he had an organization in America called Ornava that he helped a lot of thousands of girls at risk. That he had I think he also made a rehab center, and but it was like just girls on the street. He put them together. He had a school. He had evening programs. He was mamish a very amazing person, and so he had a thing that he never drank on Purim. Why didn't he drink on Purim? Because he told people that so many people tell me secrets that are completely confidential. And so he's scared that if chas v'shalom, when he's drunk, he's going to mention something about somebody that didn't want them to share. So then, how would he ever forgive himself for doing that? So that's just an amazing quality of his. But that's on a simple level. Nichnas yayin yatsa sod means the person that the secrets come out. But Chazal say that it really means something deeper, meaning that there's a certain element of the secrets of life can only be reached when you blur the very strong lines that being, when everything is going by the rules, so then you're going to be missing something. There's always going to be something a little bit superficial about a world where everything is by the rules. And that's why, in order to get to the essence of something, sometimes you need to blur the boundaries, and that's through the getting rid of das. And that's why that on Purim is the day of the essence of the truest colors coming through, the things that are so true, but we don't allow ourselves to say because of this filter, because it's not politically correct. So that's what's so beautiful about Purim, that the most beautiful secrets come out, and a person can be just in love with Hashem so much that if he's gonna like talk about how in love he is with Hashem, so people are just gonna think he's weird, but on Purim it's cool. If a person's gonna go around giving everybody hugs, so then during the week people are gonna think that's weird, but on Purim that's cool. So there's the sodos of life, the secrets of life, they come out in Purim. Okay, so that's what it means on a deeper level. So, and they say that this idea that yayin is connected with sod is hinted to in the fact that both yayin and sod have the same numerical value, because the gematria of yayin is 70, and the gematria of sod is also 70. Okay, so the question is, what does yayin and sod have to do with 70? Okay, so you might know that in Judaism, 70 is always a expression of expansion. Okay, we always talk about that 7. There's a series of 7, right? And there's a series of 10. Okay, in the Sfirot, so there's always the 7 ways of 7 points in something. So there's the 6 directions and the center, however you want to look at it, and then 10. There's 10 aspects of everything. So 10 aspects of 7 dimensions is every aspect of every expansion. Okay, so that's why we talk about the shiv'im panim la Torah, that there's 70 faces in the Torah. What does it mean, 70 faces to the Torah? It means that there's different ways, there's different explanations to the Torah, and there's different in any pasuk, in any idea. So there's 70 ways to look at something, and they're all just a piece of the truth. Okay, so at face value, this idea of Shivim Panim Torah is a clear source for the concept of Torah pluralism. Okay, that there's absolutely more than one truth, and there's 70. Now, a person could say that maybe that's not what it means. Maybe it doesn't mean that two opposite opinions are true. Maybe it just means that there's 70 different ways of looking at one verse, but maybe that's only in a way that they're not contradicting each other. However, it's actually very clear in the Torah that there is such a thing as two contradictory things being true, and that is that it says in the Mishnah that even though that in the entire Torah that there are those who say that something is tahar, something is pure, there are those that say that it's impure, there are those that say that something is permitted, there are those that say something is prohibited. The Mishnah states, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim, that both these words and these words were both the words of a living God, and all of these words, all of the words of the disagreeing sages, they were given from the same shepherd. Okay, meaning that we're looking at the rabbis as the sheep, and God is the shepherd. Okay, meaning that we are giving our explanations, but they're all the inspiration for these different opinions was all from God. So there's no what is, and to the point that the Gemara expounds upon this, and he said that the ones that God was teaching something in heaven, and somebody asked, what is God teaching? And he said he's teaching about such and such. And he said, oh, that's so interesting. That's exactly what we're learning in the basement dish here. And so what did God say? Did he say that it's okay, or did he say it's not okay? So the Gemara says, well, he said that Reb Eliezer said it's okay, and Rabbi Yonasan said it's not okay. That's what he said. Meaning that God was actually the one giving the inspiration to the rabbis to give their each contradictory truth. Okay, so so this is the. So talking about Shivim Panim Torah, we're clearly speaking about 70 expressions of different opinions that are both legitimate. Okay, and the 70 such different flavors of Judaism, and they're all going to be considered following God's Torah. Okay, and the question is, what are these things? Why is 70 the essence of the Sod? Okay, so, but if you think about it, really, if you think about what we learned last week, so it really makes a lot of sense. Because if the essence of being in touch with our secrets, being in touch with our Sod, is really being in touch with our essence. So being a truthful person is a person who's being true to the deepest part of themselves, which is really my secrets, which is really the place where I am unique. Okay, to be really connected to my own truth, to my personal truth. So if I'm going to be connected to my personal truth, it's impossible that everybody's going to agree with me. Okay? In other words, that the only way that you can have everybody to say the same thing is if everybody's going to be superficial. If everybody's going to think for themselves, if everybody's going to be true to themselves, then by nature there has to be variety. There has to be these different possibilities, and there's going to be different approaches and different perspectives. So before we expound upon this, I just want to make clear that what is there's a misunderstanding when it comes to liberalism, when it comes to this concept of pluralism. So there is a misconception, which is not a kosher idea, and that is that everything goes. Like everybody can have their personal truth. I think I shared with you once that I was giving a class to young Israelis, and at some point in the class I said, "What's truth? Who knows what truth means?" And I think I did mention this like 2 classes ago, and their knee-jerk reaction was, "What do you mean? What's truth? Everybody has their own truth." That was their definition of truth, is that everybody has their own truth. Okay, or in other words, that they were saying we don't believe in the concept of truth. Okay, it's a very harsh reality. It's very difficult to argue with such a person. A person that doesn't believe in the concept of truth. So it's very frustrating. It's very it's sad. Like I don't think you can't really like the conversation can't really go anywhere, because you can throw absolute truths to them until you're blue in the face, and then they'll say, "Okay, but that's your truth," you know. So Rebbe Nachman writes that I'm reading from you in Torah Lamed Vav. V'zeh klal ki kol nefesh miYisrael hu mushrash b'shivim nefesh shel Beit Yaakov v'shiv nefesh shel Beit Yaakov mishroshim b'shivim panim shel Torah. So that every Jew that's ever born, every Jew that's ever lives, his source is in the 70 descendants of Yaakov that went down to Egypt. Okay, meaning that the first time that we talk about the nation of Israel is when we went down to Egypt. That's the first time we were counted, and it says that when Yaakov's family came after Yosef revealed himself, so it counts all of the descendants, all of Yaakov and his children and their children. So and there's a total of 70. Okay, so we are all, any Jew that ever lives, the source of their soul is in those 70 original souls, and those 70 souls is sourced in the Shivim Panim B'Torah, in the 70 different faces of the Torah. Okay, and now he continues. V'zeh le'umas zeh asah Elokim, but corresponding to everything holy, there's something unholy. So therefore, shekeneged shiv nefesh shel Beit Yaakov hem shivim noshan, that corresponding to the 70 descendants of Yaakov, that are the kernel of the Jewish people, So corresponding to that, there's also the 70 nations of the world. Okay, it says, for example, that it talks about the 70 descendants of the 70 nations that came after the Dor Haflaga, after the Tower of Babel. So then the world was divided into 70 languages, okay, which is 70 cultures, 70 original cultures. And so that division, those are the bad guys. Okay, that division, all of those different, the 70 nations, it always talks about the anti-Semitism as the world hating us. It refers to the Jewish people as kifsa ben shiv'im ze'evim, like a sheep among 70 wolves. Okay, so we're talking about those 70 languages, those 70 non-Jewish cultures. So there are the 70 wolves which are trying to devour us. Okay, so there's 70 ways of holiness, and there's also, corresponding to the 70 ways of holiness, there's also 70 ways of unholiness. Okay, so what's very clear in Rebbe Nachman is that when he says that there's 70 faces of the Torah, it does not mean that everything goes. It means that it's not my way or highway, but it absolutely does not mean that if you whatever you think, whatever you're in the mood for, whatever your political agenda is, that's you can. I told you once about there was somebody, I forgot where it was, that there was a class for queer readings in Megillas Esther. Okay? So that's that's not one of the 70 faces of the Torah. Okay, that's one of the 70 faces of the other side. Okay, that's the that just because you have a certain idea, and you can twist the psukim to be saying your idea. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to bring proofs. In general in halacha. In general, when you have real serious questions, so to prove your point from a Torah source is a very difficult thing to do, because the Torah is so vast that you can literally find a proof to anything, and it doesn't mean it's going to be right. Okay, and at the end of the day, so you're going to find what you want to find. And so the real question is that what is your guiding light? Is your guiding light Yirat Shamayim, that really fear of heaven, that really a loyalty to the truth, or is your guiding light some agenda? Okay? And that's why it's really wrong. It's wrong when you have a serious question about life to try to find a proof for the Torah, because really that you can really find. There's a million stories but the point is that just because somebody has a proof from something from the Torah doesn't mean that he's right. It just means that he saw what he wanted to see, and if he would be looking for the opposite, he would be able to find that as well. So that's why you have to be a rabbi. You need to. It's not enough that you know a lot. It's not enough that you know how to read a lot of books. You need to really be able to search for truth. You know? So that's why it's when we're talking about Shiva Panim Torah, we're not saying that everything goes, and we're just saying that even though there is falsehood, there's absolute falsehood in Torah, but nevertheless there isn't only one way. So I want to show you how this plays out in different elements of Judaism. I want to start with how this, on a very simple level, that this plays out in halakha, okay, and which is crazy that there's actually different approaches to halakha, and some rabbis are going to say that something is okay, and some rabbis are going to say it's not okay. And so how do we look at this? We spoke about this in different contexts before, but I want to share with you something. There was perhaps the greatest Torah authority in his time was named that lived in New York by the name of Moshe Feinstein. Okay, Moshe Feinstein was he passed away in 1986, and until then he was considered the Gadol Hador, and so in the introduction to his responsa, so he writes, he was a very humble man, and And he writes, like, I feel the need to excuse myself because, like, who am I? Like, who am I to answer questions? Who am I to state my opinion? Like, I'm not as great as the rabbis that lived in generations before me. So, like maybe I should just shut up. But the truth is that, he writes, the truth is that that's not the case. Because the Hashem's will is that anybody that has Yirat Shamayim, anybody who really is searching for truth and learns through the sugya and learns through any particular subject in halacha, so when a question comes to them and they search for the truth with real honesty and loyalty to the texts and loyalty to Hashem's will, so then Hashem's will is that his opinion should be followed out. That is Hashem's will in the Torah, and for us in this world, that we should be sharing our truths. And he brings a proof to this from a very fascinating passage in the Talmud, that the Gemara says in the Yerushalmi in Shabbos that there was a certain city that everybody in the city lived very long lives. Nobody died young, and so one of the rabbis was very curious as what was the merit that nobody died young, and so I don't remember how it came out, but somebody discovered that the merit that they had for that he lived so long was that they were very, very scrupulous about following a certain halacha, and that was that this city was the city of Rebbe Elazar ben Hakonas, Rebbe Elazar the Tana, and Rebbe Elazar had a certain opinion that when you do a bris on Shabbos, so we hold that you're only allowed to do the bris itself, but you're not allowed to do things like to break Shabbos for things which are to the step before. Meaning, for example, if there's no eruv and you need to carry the baby to the place where the bris is going to be, so we hold that you can't do that, and Rebbe Elazar said you could. Okay, like maybe to sharpen the knife to make sure that you're able to do it, or whatever, things like that. Like that after the milah, so you can do anything to save the baby's life. The question is that to put yourself into the situation, can I right now sharpen the knife in order to do the bris milah? So that's a disagreement. And so Rebbe Elazar was of the opinion that you can even break Shabbos for these preliminary stages, and he said that they were very scrupulous in keeping that halacha, and in that merit, so they all lived long lives. So Moshe says, this is a crazy thing, because we know that Rebbe Elazar was wrong, so to speak, right? Because the halacha says that you're not allowed to break Shabbos for these preliminary things. So that means if you ask us, i.e. halacha, that what's the status of a person that breaks Shabbos for these preliminary states, we say, that's called he broke Shabbos, okay? And so we know that these people are actually disgracing Shabbos every time they did this. And yet somehow, God rewarded them by giving them long lives. So if you're going to read the story with the perspective of there is only one truth, so then, okay, you can tell me that they're not going to get punished. Really, Hashem is saying, you guys, you're breaking Shabbos again. And he's getting angry, but he's, okay, fine, it's that dumb rabbi of theirs that's messing them up, it's not their fault. And it's he'll forgive them for not breaking Shabbos, but to say that they merit a long life, why should they merit a long life for breaking Shabbos? So Ramesh Feinstein says, you see clearly from here that even if a person is, from an objective perspective, is saying something untrue, but Hashem wants their understanding to be brought out and to be followed, and that is actually making a more complete expression of truth in the world. Okay? Meaning that even the opinions that we don't paskin, so there is truth to them, and Hashem wants that truth to be revealed and to be lived out to the point that they actually get rewarded by doing by following their opinion. Okay? Now this is relevant to us as well, because there's a halacha that says that chacham she'asar en chaver yachal lahatir. Okay? There's a halacha that says that if I if I if I ask the question, if I had a certain question in halacha, and I asked my rabbi, and I didn't like what he said. He was too strict for me, and so I went to shop around for another opinion. It says I'm not allowed to do it. Okay, you're not allowed to do it. Okay, now it says there's different reasons. There's different reasons given for this. Like for example, if you have in mind, like if you tell them, if you say before, like I'm not asking you that I want to accept it, then it's okay. So one of the reasons given is that the Ritva says, many Rishonim say, that Tosfos says, the Rebbe says that once you ask the first rabbi the question, and he said that it's aser, it becomes aser. So asking another rabbi, even though the other rabbi thinks it's okay, but what you asked was already became aser. Okay. I mean, you're always allowed to be stringent.
But is it okay? Is that a heter? It's good. It's valid enough if it's not stringent.
If it's coming, take for example what the story with Rebbe Gadol, that he had a lenient opinion that you're supposed to break Shabbos in a certain situation, and they were supposed to follow his opinion. If it was originally given, if either you found out later that the rabbi that told you was a little bit liberal and you shouldn't trust him, then, or that originally it was clear that I'm giving you that you can be lenient, it's not the best, but I'm not going to be strict with you because what you're doing is great. So then then years later you're a different person. So then there's no reason to be lenient if you're in a different place. But objectively speaking, if a legitimate rabbi, through his understanding of Torah, thinks that something is okay, so you don't need to look further. You don't need to feel nervous that, oh my gosh, what I'm doing is really wrong? Because if the rabbi came out with his opinion that this is okay, then it's actually okay. Did that answer your question? Yeah. So the Ritva says, the Ritva and the Tosfos says that the reason, if I ask a person a halacha, when the first rabbi says that it's prohibited, it actually becomes prohibited. Okay, because Hashem made this reality that when a question comes before the halachic authority, so they look at the question based on their understanding of Torah knowledge, based on their understanding of life, and they give their opinion. So that creates a reality. That creates a reality that the actual object that was asked is now dependent on the reality of their perspective. Okay, that's a crazy thing. And then what's even more amazing is that the Ritva takes this a step further. There's the Ritva in Masechah Sukkah that there was talking about there was a certain dispute about a certain sukkah, whether it's kosher or not, and somebody was sukkah hopping. The sages were sukkah hopping. They went to one rabbi's sukkah, and the Gemara says that there was a certain situation that the sukkah was not kosher according to the guest. It was kosher according to the host, but it wasn't kosher according to the guest. So the Gemara asks, the Rishonim asks, how could he have done that? How could he have done that if? And the Gemara says, and so Ritva says, and don't tell me that the reason why he did it is because he thinks it's okay. The host thinks it's okay, because since the guest thinks it's not okay, so if I would allow you to be eating in something that according to your opinion it's not kosher, I am considered that I'm causing you to sin. And this to me is very amazing, because this means that even these parallel truths exist even from my perspective. That even though I actually think that this is fine, and Hashem wants me to follow my truth, but Hashem wants me to respect that you disagree, to the point that if even though I think it's really true, I really think that what you're reading is really kosher. So I think that's relevant for us. Like if we have certain leniencies with kosher or something, and somebody else has some craziness. Like I've spoken about people who have craziness about hechsheres, and like, so I don't know how much to take this. Like I was making fun of the people that only eat badats, because that's really just nonsense. There's just because 70 years ago badats was the only good hechsher, so that doesn't mean that now there's not good hechshers. But let's say there's like a real difference. Okay, that I know that this is kosher, and I know that my rabbi said that this is kosher, and you don't need to be more strict. But somebody else has a more strict hechsher. Okay, so I think a natural way to look at it is that, like, come on, like, you guys, you're just fanatics. Like, I know this is kosher, so if I know it's kosher, so you're not doing anything wrong. If you eat I'm not going to tell you, and everything's good. Everything's good. I'm giving you kosher food. It's all good, and I think that's how most of us would think, right? And the Ritva is saying that no, that I need to respect the fact that for you it's actually not kosher. If that's the way you look at life based on your perspective of halacha, so then I need to respect that. And so this is it works both ways. That the person who's strict needs to respect the fact that for other people who are lenient, that there is an absolute truth to that, and they're doing perfect. And I'm not better than you because I'm more strict than you, and vice versa. That the person who's more strict, as the person who's more lenient, can't make fun of the person who's more strict, thinking that, oh, you're just a fanatic. That I need to respect the fact that that's beautiful, that you're saying that, and there's also truth to that. And you do you, like, not just like you do you, like I think most people want to say that you do you, they mean just I'll pretend you don't exist. But like you do you, like it's beautiful that you're doing you, and you're making the world into a better place by having this opinion in the world. It reminds me that once Rav Shach was I wouldn't say that he's I wouldn't say that he was Zionist, but he wasn't anti-Zionist. He was very much part of government, like part of like cooperating with the state of Israel, but he said once that he has a lot of appreciation to the Satmar Rav. On the other hand, Satmar Rav was known to be the greatest anti-Zionist that ever lived. Okay, so he once said that he has appreciation to the fact that the Satmar Rav was being the Satmar Rav, because if he wouldn't do it, then I would have to do it. Meaning that I really believe in the centrist opinion, a centrist approach. But somebody needs to say that this is not okay. You can't have an atheist Jewish state, and it's evil. And because there's truth to that. There's truth to the fact that you can't have an atheist Jewish state. But I don't think that that's the way to go. I don't think that being anti-Zionist is really going to help the world. So I don't want to do that. But I'm happy that he's there because that's why that truth is being stated. So the world has this truth. So now that even though I don't believe in it, but I do believe in it, right? So everyone has to appreciate the fact that those opinions that I don't agree with, but I need to appreciate that they're there. Okay. So this is true. This is true in halacha, and I once heard a beautiful thing that this is even true when it comes to midot. Okay, and this is very interesting. This is an idea I once heard from a sefer called Koch Ve'or from Rebbe Petersberger. They're one of the Talmidim of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Okay, so he's coming to explain a Gemara, that the Gemara says in Tainis that there was a story with Rebbe Lazar and Rebbe Kiva, that Rebbe Lazar that he was davening. He was davening. There was a drought, and he told everybody, you need to fast. You need to fast as an act of tshuva, that there should be rain. And they fasted 1 week and 2 weeks and 3 weeks, and like consecutive weeks. Not straight. And like they made a fast 1 day a week, and the next day it's the same thing, etc. And it wasn't working. And then on the last day, so he was the chazan, and like he added like extra brachas, and it was davening with all his might, and nothing doing. Hashem didn't answer him. And then Rebbe Kiva got up, and he davened Avinu Malkeinu. It says he davened like a short tefillah, and then started pouring. And the Gemara comments, "V'lo mipnei shezu gadol mizu," and it's not because it's the reason why Hashem answered Rebbe Kiva and didn't answer Rebbe Lazar. It's not because Rebbe Kiva is greater than Rebbe Lazar. Ella mipnei shezu ma'aver amidasav v'zu ena ma'aver amidasav. But rather because Rebbe Kiva, he has a certain quality, he has a certain character trait that called ma'aver amidotav. Ma'aver amidotav means the person that isn't so insistent on like things being their way. Like, people that things need to be just so, and if things aren't the way they want it to be, so then they're going to correct you, and they like things to be proper, and with the best intentions, but they just they don't they're not so easygoing, and so Rebbe Lazar, he was a more of a strict person. He needed things need to be just so, and Rebbe Kiva was a more of a sababa kind of person. Okay, so because Rebbe Kiva had this character trait of being Mavel Amidasav, that he was more sababa. So that's why when he came to ask Hashem, said, Hashem, could you please give us some rain? So Hashem said, sababa, I'll give you rain. Things don't have to be just so. So everybody asks that, what does the Gemara mean? That v'lo mipnei shezu gadol mizu, and it's not because one is greater than the other, it's just because he has this character trait and he doesn't have this character trait. That if he has this character trait and the other guy doesn't have this character trait, that means that he is greater than the other guy. So how can the Gemara say that Rebbe Kiva is not greater than Rebbe Lazar? Of course he's greater. He's Ma'aver Amidasav, the other guy, and Rebbe Lazar is not. So the Gemara seems to be a self-contradiction. So Rebbe Petersberger says that this is an amazing thing, that it's actually not necessarily greater. Rather, that Rebbe Lazar, so he was a student of Beit Shammai, okay? And Beit Shammai we know that they are connected to the energy of Gevurah, of strictness, of might, of boundaries. And Hillel, that Rebbe Kiva, he was a student of Hillel, okay? He was a student, and Hillel is connected to the energy of Chesed, of being softer, of being more easygoing, being more lenient. So that's why Beit Shammai, so it's the essence of their soul. Their truest self was to be connected to Gevurah, and that's why they were always like very strict. And Beit Hillel, so they were the essence of their soul was always chesed. They were more, the Gemara says a fascinating thing, that one of the reasons why the halacha is always like Beit Hillel is because whenever they would teach, so they always showed respect to Beit Shammai. Meaning, in any particular question, so when he was speaking, so he would say, in such and such a situation, so Beit Shammai says that it's not okay, but we say that it is okay. And they would preface what Beit Shammai says to what they themselves say. And that's which is, if you want to brainwash your students, so you don't start by telling them what everybody else says, okay? Because there's a certain concern that they're gonna hear what they want to hear. They're gonna just space out after they heard the answer. If you want to brainwash your students, so So you just tell them your way. Okay, just everything else doesn't exist. I sometimes get complaints from people learning halacha for the first time that they learned a certain thing, they learned a certain flavor of Judaism, which was actually a very strict flavor, and then later in life they discover that there's more flavors, and they have resentment. So why did he tell me that this is the halacha, as if it's from God? This is not halacha. This is one approach to halacha. And I would have liked to be able to make the decision myself. I didn't like that my teachers were brainwashing me with their particular approaches. Right. So that was Beit Hillel was the father of giving options, giving when they would give their class, they would say, my colleagues say the opposite, but this is what I say. Okay, and this is so that's the Gemara says that's why the halacha was like that. Okay, so Rebbe Lazar, his soul was from the essence of Beit Shammai. His soul was the essence of Gevurah. So his mission in life was to follow his truth, and his truth was to be a strict person, and his truth was to be a non-budging person. The person is going to be very, very insistent that things are exactly the way they're supposed to be, and so he's not considered lacking in his service of Hashem. He's not considered lacking in how good a Jew he was, because he didn't have this character trait of Ma'avar Midaisa, because he was being true to himself. Okay, but Beit Hillel, because his being true to himself was to be able to bend, to be able to be sababa, to be Ma'avar Midaisa. So that's why when it comes to davening, so even though they're both equally good Jews, but when it comes to davening, the person that has Ma'avar Midaisa, so because Hashem treats people midah k'neged midah, because Hashem treats people corresponding to the way that they are, so when it comes to davening, so if you're a more sababa person, so I'll be sababa with you too. Okay, so it's an added benefit, but that would not justify Rebbe Lazar not being true to himself. Okay, Rebbe Lazar's purpose in this world was to be a strict person, insistent person, and because that was his being true to himself. We discussed in the class about Tevis. So I told you there was a Rebbe, one of the grandsons of the Baal Shem Tov. His name was Rebbe Baruch Mibezhebush, and he was like the similar kind of personality. He was he would get angry, if things weren't the right way. So he would be like a stern person, and and everybody knew that was even though there wasn't the popular, I'm not sure how many Hasidim he had, but everybody knew that was his way of serving Hashem. And the crazy thing was that when he passed away, so he had a heart attack, and he was in the middle of learning, and when he looked at the page of the text that he was learning, so he was open to the Zohar, and the Zohar was opened to the page where it says different kinds of rogas, that there's different kinds of anger, that is rugza de iskri ara, the is rugza de iskri baruch, that there is an anger which is called cursed, and there is an anger which is called baruch. Okay, and that was his name. His name was Baruch Mibezhebush. So then, meaning that they took this as a sign from Hashem, that when Hashem said that there is an anger which is called Baruch, which is blessed, so it's referring to him. Okay, so there's a there's a necessity for different character traits, and that's why the fact that people are different with us, they have different temperaments. So it doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just we need to be able to respect the fact that there is diversity. You ever read this book by Miriam Adahan called Appreciating People? Okay, I highly recommend it. She calls it Appreciating People, in parentheses, including yourself. So the idea is it's based on the Briggs-Myers personality system, that there's 4 different questions and 2 different possibilities, and so 16 different ways, different personality types, And basically the idea is that different people have different temperaments, and there's nothing wrong with anybody. And that's why the including yourself is that sometimes we have this tendency to think, well, everybody else thinks this is so much fun. What's wrong with me that I don't think it's so much fun? So it's okay. It's okay to be the person that loves Purim. It's okay to the person that can't stand Purim. That's you're nothing wrong with you. You're very normal. So to appreciate the fact that there's this room for division, there's room for diversity. So it helps us really to accept ourselves as well. Okay, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. We started by saying that it's because I am true to myself. That's what requires diversity. That if everybody's going to be not true to themselves, if everybody's going to be shallow, if everybody's going to be superficial, then we can all be on the same page. But if we're all going to be real, so then we can't all be on the same page. Okay? Now, it also goes the opposite. That the fact that we're going to accept diversity, that's what allows me to embrace myself. Meaning that I'm able to, a person that was fighting themselves the whole time, that's trying to suppress their true selves. So now that I learn about the concept of diversity, that allows me to embrace myself. Now, there's a very beautiful thing. That connects back to Purim, and that is that it says at the very end of the Megillah, it says that they sent the Megillah around to the 127 nations, and they wrote it down. Divrei Shalom ve'emet, words that the Megillah is called words of peace and truth. Words of peace and truth. Okay. So it's an interesting thing, because if you think of peace and truth, so what's usually the correct order? What should come first? Should first look for truth, first look for peace, and then look for truth, or first look for truth and then look for peace? Right? So usually the people that are first looking for peace, and only after they look for peace, they look for truth. So it's usually problematic, right? Because usually people that are all for peace, so it's really coming from a place that truth isn't important, right? Which is precisely what we spoke about, like postmodernism. There's people that don't believe in truth, and what's interesting is that a lot of these open-minded, liberal, everything goes kinds of people, that the only thing that isn't okay is the people who are closed-minded, and that proves that they aren't actually open-minded. Because if you're really open-minded from a place of elu ve'elu, different strokes for different folks, so then I should embrace the fact that it's okay for you to be closed-minded, because there is truth to that as well. I embrace the open-mindedness, but I should be able, because of my wide vision, I should be able to respect the fact that there's a place for closed-mindedness as well, right? And that proves that proves that really their open-mindedness is just a guise for, I just want everybody to do whatever they want, right? And not that they actually want peace. They actually don't want peace. They just want that peace is just a code word for that nobody's going to tell me what to do, right? So that's why usually the correct order is emet first. The first look for truth, and then look for peace. Through your search for truth, find that the truth is actually complex, and through your discovery of the complexity of truth, to find peace. Okay, and in Purim, for some reason, the Megillah says that the Megillah is revealing that it's divrei shalom ve'emet. That it starts from peace, and then it goes to truth. Okay, so but the truth is that the peace of Purim is actually a different kind of peace. Because what's the peace of Purim? Purim is actually not such a peaceful holiday, right? Peaceful, really, right? I told one of my schools. I told them about there was this professor. Maybe it was here. There's a professor in Hebrew U that would evade Purim. on the first day he would go to Yerushalayim, and on the second day he would go to Tel Aviv. He was the Grinch that stole Purim, and so it doesn't really work halachically. But the crazy thing was that he thought that he doesn't believe in a holiday based on violence. He doesn't believe, but what he didn't understand is that what was the violence of Purim? The violence of Purim was destroying evil, because all the people that we killed was all from Amalek. So we were Nazi hunting. The story of Purim is about Nazi hunting, and that is what brings peace.
Does the professor also not believe in Hanukkah?
Does he also not believe in Hanukkah?
Because that's also the same thing. Hanukkah's Greeks also wasn't.
Yeah, but over there I think at Hanukkah we're celebrating our religious liberation, not necessarily. Over here we're celebrating that we killed the bad guys.
I mean, the Hanukkah was the whole war. And also, some people say that why is it 8 days, the miracle of 7 days, or 1 day for the war? So,
I don't know. I don't really know. This is what I heard. I never met him personally. But anyway, but the peace. What's the peace of Purim? For the Purim is not such a peaceful holiday, right? The peace of Purim is that getting rid of the bad guys makes the world more peaceful, right? So, and that through that peace of shutting up this voice of falsehood, so that's what brings peace, and that through that peace we come to Emet. Okay, so this is I think a very very critical lesson, a critical thing that more people need to know. More people need to know that Judaism is not black and white, and there's really multiple truths, and there is it's really okay that for some people it's okay, for some people it's not okay, and that's why we can never be judgmental about people who are following a different flavor of Judaism than we are. I literally know people that in the back of their minds, they really think that I really hope that Hashem has compassion on Rebbe Yosef, that he's not going to burn in hell, because just besides the fact that all of those rice on Pesach, so many things that I don't know what Hashem is going to do with him. Are you out of your mind? You really think that a righteous person that went through halacha, that it's so clear that just because a lot of rabbis disagree with him, and so if you want to be stringent, be my guest, but how dare you think that what he did is that Hashem is anything but smiling at him, and if his students are going to follow him, so then there's anything wrong with that. To be judgmental of people who follow different opinions has no grounding, has no basis. So this is really a very important that the truth, the deepest level of truth is to understand that the truth is complicated, and we will never have the truth. In fact, somebody said a very sharp line that if any teacher ever claims to have the truth, say, "Follow me, I've got the truth," run away. Run away. Anybody that thinks that they have the truth, it means that they don't know what they're looking for. It means that what they call the truth is some cheap lookalike. Okay? It's not that there's a person that thinks that they have the truth is very far from the truth, and the person that understands anything about truth understands that what we know is a little glimpse of the truth, but there's certainly many truths which are beyond our comprehension, which truths which other people are expressing, etc. So this is really the depth of everything we learned about truth is that the truth is actually deeper than any truth that we can ever reveal. So l'chaim.